Hey everyone, today we are going to be working on lesson 2.2. We're going to be finding percentages, parts, and wholes. In this portion of module 2, you are allowed to use a calculator. So we will be using our calculators to find these percents, parts, and wholes because they don't always work out nice. And this allows us to give you more complicated numbers as long as you're able to set up what we are trying to find. So I've got 3 different examples. We are going to be finding the part first, then finding the percent, and then finding the whole. To find the part, so you can see right here it says finding the part. We are going to write the percent as a decimal and then multiply by the whole. So we are going to take this 15%. And we are going to write it as a decimal. So remember that decimals are at the end. I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So I'm actually doing 0.15 times 82. And then I'm going to use my calculator. 0.15 times 82 is 12.3. So 15% of 82 is 12.3. And again, we're using our calculator because that number did not come out very nice. For number 2, it says 256% of 75. I'm going to change 256 to a decimal. So I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So I have 2.56 times 75. And I get 192. Now, in this particular problem, it makes sense for the result to be bigger than the original number, the original whole given, because 256% is bigger than 100%. Here we're looking at a percent that's less than 1. So when I change 0.5 into a decimal, it's actually 0.005. Times 50, so this number is going to be pretty tiny, 0.005 times 50 in the calculator, and I get 0.25. And then number 4, I'm changing 76 into a decimal, so we'll move it twice to the left. So this is going to be 0.76 times 450, so 0.76 times 450. And I get 342. Okay, this is finding the part. So we're changing the percent into a decimal and multiplying by the whole. Next example, we're going to be finding the percent. So when we find the percent, we are finding the number that's out of 100. Okay. This would be like how I, excuse me, this would be how I calculate the percentages on your test, the percentages on your quiz, the percentages that are your grade. To calculate a percent, you do part divided by whole and then multiply by 100. So when it says 23 out of 80, that means 23 divided by 80. So 23 divided by 80 is 0.2875, and then I'm going to multiply that by 100, and I get 28.75%. Now, it is important that for percents that they do have a percent sign. On this one, I used a calculator as well because I don't know what 23 divided by 80 is unless I put it in the calculator. When I get to the part where I'm multiplying by 100, I can put that in the calculator as well, or I can just move the decimal 2 places to the right. So for number 6, I'm going to do 35 divided by 70. 35 divided by 70 is 0.5. And then I am going to multiply that by 100, and I can either put it in the calculator or I can move the decimal 2 places to the right. And I get 50%. Again, remembering that when I'm finding a percent, it needs a percent sign. For 7 over 12, that is the same thing as 7 divided by 12. So 7 divided by 12 is 0.583 forever. So I'm going to use a little bar to denote my repeating decimal, and then I am going to multiply that by 100. So move the decimal 2 places to the right, and I get 58.3 repeating percent. In number 8, they give you the part and the whole, so it's still part divided by whole times 100. So 42 divided by 200 is equal to 0.21. And then I'm multiplying by 100, or moving the decimal 2 places to the right, 21%. My last example here, it says finding the whole. And when we find the whole, we're going to set up the percent proportion. The percent proportion is 2 fractions that are equal to each other. Percents are always out of 100. So the first part of the proportion that we're going to set up is the percent out of 100 is equal to another fraction. And the fraction is part over whole, or is over of. So for number 9, it says 35 is. Okay, 35 is means that it's the top part of my fraction, the is part of my fraction. And then of what number? This right here is the bottom, and that's the part that we're not going to know because I'm finding the whole. And then I've got my percent here in the middle. So I'm going to start with 7 over 100 is equal to 35 is the is part, and then the bottom of my fraction is the piece that I am missing. Now these ones we may not necessarily need a calculator, sometimes we will. So down at the bottom here you can see that we've got some stranger numbers, some decimals, some larger numbers where we're going to use a calculator. Up here I don't need a calculator because I can get from 7 to 35 by multiplying by 5. So 100 times 5 gives me 500. So my whole is 500. Again, over here, I've got 25 over 100 is equal to, and then 5 is, so 5 goes on top. And then of what number is my missing piece on the bottom? To get from 25 to 5, I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, and I get 20. In the next ones, they tell us what the part is and what the percent is. So I can see in my percent proportion, the part goes on top. So percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. And I'm going to multiply by 2. So 200. In number 12, percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. And here I'm actually dividing, so I'm going to divide by 4, and I get 25 as my whole. Now in these last two, I am going to set up my percent proportion, but as you can see, some of the numbers are pretty large, and then I've got another one that has a decimal. So here I'm going to have 61 over 100 is equal to 24,400 over my whole. Now on this one, I'm trying to figure out what I need to multiply 61 by to get to 24,400. That means if I do 24,400 divided by 61, that's what I'm multiplying by. So I'm going to do 24,400, and again, I'm using my calculator here, divided by 61, and I get 400. So that means that I'm multiplying by 400 on both the top and the bottom. So that division, 24,400 divided by 61, tells me what I'm multiplying by. And then I do 100 times 400, and I get 40,000. So 24,400 over 40,000 is the same as 61%. In number 14, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 29 over 100. So percent over 100 is equal to 54.25 over my whole. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I am going to figure out what I am multiplying by dividing. So I'm going to do 54.25 divided by 29. And I am going to keep the first three, so 1.87. So times 1.87. And that should be 187 when I multiply by 100. Because again, if I multiply by 100, I'm just moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Or you can put it in your calculator as times 100. So these bottom two are kind of special. They're a little bit different. They allow for us to use the calculator, showing you how to use the calculator on those types of questions. The first 4% proportions are very basic. We can use our multiplication chart. We don't necessarily need a calculator. But for some of these percent questions, it's just a little bit more convenient to have the use of your calculator as we're finding these values.